Hello one and all, Mickey here. I decided to make a very short video on how to set up custom missions for XCOM Enemy Within, either vanilla or long war. First thing first, you're going to need to activate the developer console. And to install the console, you're going to need PatcherGUI, which can be found in UPKUtils at the Nexus. Links to both can be found in the description below. So after you've downloaded PatcherGUI and the console, unzip them both. Open up PatcherGUI. And if you haven't installed PatcherGUI in the past, this is how you set it up. Tell it where XCOM Enemy Within is located. So XCW, select folder. Tell it where the file that you want to install is located, which for us is the console file, and is whatever location you unzip the file into. And then apply. I'm not going to be applying it because I've already got it installed, but that's all you have to do to activate the console. And simply load up the game like normal, and you will find all of these new buttons down here. If any of you guys have seen me streaming, you've probably seen these buttons and thought, what the hell are these cheat hacks doing here, Mickey? This shows that the console is now active. To go to the standard menu, click the Final Shells menu button here. But be aware, once you click that, it will go to the original menu and you can't get this menu back unless you exit the game and open it up again. But you'll also find that the backward slash button to the left of the Z key brings up the console, which will allow you to do a bunch of lovely, cool, random things to the game, which will make it hate you. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. First, let's go to Tactical. This will open up a list of every single map in the game, as well as 3 drop-down menus that don't really do anything because this menu wasn't really intended for consumer use. But what you're going to need is to pick a map. Any map. There'll be a link in the description below to the Long War Wikipedia page, which has every map listed, so you can see what each one of these maps are, in case you don't recognise them by name. But let's go to one of the more rarer maps. How about the airbase defense that Long War added? Not many of you guys would have seen that unless you got an airbase assault in Long War. So here, yeah, this is where you can pick whatever units you want to have. Unfortunately, it only allows you to pick XCOM units. So soldiers, mechs, or shivs. So even though you can pick alien weapons, which I wouldn't recommend it will probably make the game crash. If you wanted to set up a mission where you had up to 8 soldiers with particular weapons and items, this is the place to do it. Unfortunately, as far as I can see, there are a number of weapons missing, including the Tier 1 ballistic weapons and the Tier 2 laser weapons. It seems to go straight to Gore's weaponry, which is the standard Tier 1 XCOM weaponry, and then Pulse laser weaponry, which is vanilla XCOM's Tier 2, and then of course plasma weaponry. So, as you can see, it wasn't really intended for use, but if you want to have up to 8 XCOM soldiers, this is probably your best way of going about it. But if you don't want to have any XCOM soldiers, you will actually have to pick at least one. So, let's go with this random rookie and load up the map. Okay, so now we have the map. And now this is where you set up all the enemies that you want to have, all the units that you want to have, and then just go nuts really. Unfortunately, it can be a little bit messy in the fact that on every single standard mission you load up, there'll always be 9 sectoids on the map somewhere, which means if you don't want them to be part of your mission, you need to go and find them and kill them. Now, of course, you could use the kill aliens command. Unfortunately, that kills all the aliens on the map and will automatically end the mission, which means, as annoying as it is, the only way that I know of to clear the map without ending the mission is to simply go through, preferably teleporting your soldier with the teleport to cursor command. Hi, sectoids.
Recorded history.
Violent, it has been seen so many times. So yeah, as you can see, 3 sectoids, the first pod of 3 sectoids, and unfortunately you're going to have to delete them manually one by one with the kill nearest alien command. And that will kill, obviously, the nearest alien to the cursor, or basically any unit that is unfriendly. That also includes Exalt or your soldiers if you made them into the enemy. So obviously you need to do this because otherwise the game will end. But something to note, before you kill the last sector on the map, you're going to want to make sure that at least one of the enemies that you want on your custom mission exists on the map before you finish killing all of the aliens. Because if you kill all the aliens, then the mission's going to end. So, first let's go find all the sectoids. Okay, so another 2 right next to them. A few more sectoids. And it looks like there were in fact 4 pods of sectoids. It looked like a couple of the pods only had 2 aliens in it. So now that we know where all the sectoids are, let's first start by planting our own enemies. So So let's say, for example, you want a sector pod on both sides of the map with a cyber disk either side of it. So let's try that. The command that you're going to want is the drop command. This is the command that spawns units on the map, whether they be friendly or enemy. To spawn enemies, simply type in the name that you want. In this case, I want a sector pod, so sectopod, and enter.
The aliens seem to be fielding mechanized units more frequently.
For the love of God, you two shut up.
Of that thing.
Okay, so as you can see, the unit is invisible. Guys, don't worry, this is completely normal. If ever you spawn in a unit onto a map that doesn't already have that unit existing, then the game wouldn't have loaded its model, and it's invisible. Simple solution is save the game and reload it. That'll force the game to reload all the models over again and make the sector pod appear. The reason why I'm not going to do that is because I also want a couple of cyber disks. So, drop cyber disk.
We can't get a read on that thing.
And yeah, I'll say
movements are
two.
so inconsistent.
And there you go. A sector pod and 2 cyber disks. So, assuming that this is the only variety of enemies or units that I want on the map, let's save the game. Any map loaded from that long list of maps tends to always have the name Game 0. Don't worry about it, it's fine. Load it up. And voila! 1 sector pod I ordered and 2 cyber disks. Let's go put that on the other side of the map as well. Teleport over here so we can see what we're doing. Then 1 sector pod and 2 cyber disks. Okay, let's assume that these are all the enemies that we want on the map. Now time to get rid of those sectoids. Kill nearest alien, and yeah, they scatter, poor guys. Go on, run for your lives. I know, it's unfair. So, yeah, kill them all, one by one. As I said, as far as I'm aware, there is no other way of doing this, because if you use the kill aliens command, which is kill all enemies, essentially, it just ends the mission there and then, because there aren't any enemies remaining. Teleport back over. And lastly, these 3 sectoids. Go on then, run for your lives. No. Fine by me. And now you know why every single custom mission that I've ever done has corpses of sectoids strewn all over the place. It is annoying and cumbersome, yes, I know, but unfortunately I don't know any other way of doing it. Now we have all the enemies that we want to face on the map and no sectoids. And nothing other than that, because all the sectoids that loaded with the map are dead. So, sectopod, cyber disk, sectopod, cyber disk. Bear in mind, you can start anywhere you choose to. The landing zone where you start the mission doesn't really mean anything to you. It's not like you can extract. But for argument's sake, let's start inside this little room here. So, what do I want my friendly forces to be? Let's say 4 thin men, a mech, and a sniper. So, just like last time, the command that you're going to want to use is drop, except for one very important detail. After you've typed in the name of the unit that you want, if that unit is inherently an enemy unit, like Exalt or an alien, always press space and 1. That will pick the side that the unit will spawn on. Now, why this is important is because if you made a thin man that was an enemy, then use the command swap teams on nearest unit, which allows you to just switch sides of whatever unit is closest to the cursor, then the game won't end because it'll assume that that unit is still hostile to your side. So if I spawned a thin man with drop thin man, without space 1.
That alien is unusually human.
Violent, I know. Like before, he's a new unit, so his model wouldn't have loaded into the game yet. You need to save and load. So let's save and load. As you can see, he's loaded into the game just fine. But if you were to use the command swap teams on nearest unit to switch his sides to the friendly side, bearing in mind that he loses his turn when you do that, the game will still think he's an enemy. And if you were to kill all the enemies on the map, the mission won't end because this guy spawned into the map as an enemy and he's still alive. So, let's get rid of him. Thin man, teleport over to here. Then switch his side with the swap teams on nearest unit, which I have bound to L for the versus campaign that I'm doing with Squee. And then simply kill him with kill nearest alien. So let's spawn the thin man in properly with drop thin man space 1. As you can see, they do start on your side. So now if you were to kill all the enemies on the map and these guys still survived, the mission will end as if you killed all the enemies on the map, as it should do. Another one, and our last thin man. Sorry, buddy, can you move over a second? Thank you very much. Okay, So, a couple more things that you might want to know when you're spawning in units. How do you spawn in soldiers? Now, this is something that I've worked out very recently. Yes, it is the drop soldier command, but by default, it drops them with a random loadout, with the most likely loadout going to be a Gauss rifle and a pistol. But you do have a little bit of choice in the matter, as you can see by the I loadout. If you want to know how to spawn soldiers with different equipment and different weapons, or mechs, then you're going to have to open up the loadout file inside the config folder. So let's head over there quickly. So the file that you're looking for is inside XCW, XCOM game, and config. And the file you want is default loadouts. Now, this might look a little bit complicated, but it isn't really that difficult to grasp. After the drop soldier command, all you need to do is type in the section of text that comes after the equal sign. So if you want a basic sniper, which in the case of Long War is a Gauss sniper, e-loadout sniper. Then press enter in the console and you will spawn a random soldier with a sniper rifle. Same goes for a rocketeer with Rocketman, laser sniper rifle, self-explanatory. Pistolier basically means no primary weapon, just a pistol, like XCOM operatives. And if you were to type in drop soldier e-loadout mech mark 1, exactly what it sounds, it will spawn in a mech with a mech 1 suit. Now, as far as I'm aware, you can actually create new loadouts if you wanted to. I'm not going to go into any detail about that because I have no idea what I'm doing, because as it says here, you might actually have to update another file in the process. So I'm not going to touch on that. All I wanted to go into was how to spawn in a soldier with a particular loadout and a mech, because this is the only way that I know of how to spawn a mech. So now that we have that information, we can now spawn in a sniper. He looks a little bit bugged out right now. That's because when the map was loaded, it didn't load in the sniper rifle model because it didn't know that it needed it. Like with all the aliens that we've spawned in, if they weren't originally loaded when the mission started, then you'll need to save and reload to fix it. Next, we spawn the mech, which, like all the aliens, is invisible. As with the sniper rifle, because he wasn't loaded when the mission was started, all you need to do, like before, save and then load. And there you go. So one last thing that you're probably going to want to know how to do if you want to play as an all-alien squad. What the hell do you do with your first soldier? Well, I'm sorry Manu, because there's not really any simple solution. There's no easy way to remove you from the game. Teleport to cursor, and then switch your side, swap teams on nearest unit. Then with the cursor over you, kill nearest alien. I'm sorry, buddy, but this is kind of a demonstration. So yeah, this is also why any custom mission that I have, you'll probably see a dead rookie somewhere around the map, because you have to load up the mission with a soldier. And this is our squad. Now, for most people, this is probably all you're going to want to know. But a couple of small details that you might not be aware of in case you want to do this and you're wondering what's going on with the stats of the enemies. By default, when you load up a mission, all of the units, yours and theirs, will have easy mode stats, which in Long War is normal mode, I think it's called. But basically, they will have bottom tier stats and nothing else. Which means for all the mechs over here, they won't even have DR. And things like Outsiders won't even have things like regeneration. So how do you get around that? Well, unfortunately, there's no real way of getting around enemies starting as easy mode enemies, or your unit starting as easy mode units. The only thing you can do is give them perks. Yeah, with the giveperk command. Now, Joey, I'm going to need you to demonstrate. Come with me, please. Okay, so for the enemies, if you really want to give the aliens perks, unfortunately, the only way of doing that is by switching their sides with, yes, the swap teams on nearest unit command. So let's take the sub-disc as an example. And then giving it whatever you want it to have. All you need to do to give them whatever perk you want is switch their side so you can select them, and then type in give perk whatever the number of the perk is. For iron skin or damage control, 148 for iron skin and 134 for damage control. But as you can imagine, by the fact that Iron Skin is perk number 148, there are a lot of perks. I will put a link in the description below with a list of all the perks. I'll find one somewhere. I've got my own file where I've got all the perks that don't work on XCOM soldiers grayed out. But I'll find a page somewhere that has a list of all the perks that you can give. It'll be down to you to decide which ones you want and experiment to see whether they can even be used by aliens or humans. But for argument's sake, Iron Skin and damage control is all I'm going to give to this one cyber disc. So there you go. You are now hostile again. I'm not going to do that with all the enemies because it's a pain really. But remember, if you want to do this, you'd still have to spawn them in as enemies, because otherwise it can sometimes screw up the game, in that the game doesn't know which units are friendlies and which ones are enemies, even though their health bar and the AI will take control of whichever one's enemies. But yeah, for argument's sake, those 2 perks will do on that one cyber disc. If you want to do that to all the units that you've spawned and give them any extra perks that you fancy, then by all means. But that'll do for now. Now let's head back. Okay, so that is pretty much everything. If you want to give any of your own units perks that they don't already have, for example, Joey here would probably make do with Squad Sight if he wanted to be a sniper. Yeah, I think that might be a good idea. Then you'd have to give them Squad Sight, whatever the perk is, which my long list of perks says it is perk number 3, Squad Sight. So yeah, feel free to give whoever you want to have perks, whatever perks you want them to have, friendly or enemy. Remember, you have to change them to be friendly first before you can give them perks, and then change it back afterwards, after having spawned them in as enemies to begin with. But guys, this should pretty much cover it. At this point, ignoring the dead thin man and the dead rookie over here, yeah, sorry buddy, you're not looking that great right now. That is pretty much the map. If you accidentally changed your team's side, for example, let's take Joey here, and we switch his side, and then you change him back, you can now see that he's lost his turn and you won't be able to move him. That is just how it goes. There are several commands that can get around this. One of them is reset unit movements. As you can see, it gave him his moves back, but unfortunately sometimes it will only literally give them their movement back, not their actions. Even though it does kind of seem like he can do whatever the hell he feels like. But yeah, in my experience, that has bugged out sometimes and only given their literal movement back, not their actions. But guys, that I think is everything. So feel free to go nuts and let me know what insane creations you come up with. And hopefully XCOM 2, if it doesn't come at launch with some sort of skirmish mode, it won't take long for modders to insert some sort of menu that will allow you to pick what map you want, what units you want to spawn with, and what enemies you want to have. One last thing in case I didn't mention it, all of the enemies that you spawn in will be active. They won't be like normal pods you've encountered in the past where you have to trigger them by getting eyes on them. They will all be active from the start, so something to be aware of if you intend to have dozens of enemies on the map, that they will all be active from the start, and the moment they get eyes on you, every single one of them will converge on your position, because remember, if none of the enemies can see any of your units, then they have no idea where you are. But if any one of the enemies can see any one of your units, then they've got a rough idea of where exactly every single one of your units are. And I should probably mention before I go, one last piece of information. No, seriously, last piece of information. The game has trouble handling any more than 50 units at a time, which is why the alien base assaults on Long War never have more than 50 units. They typically have between 44 and 48 in my experience, because anything more than that tends to bug out the game. It can make the game laggy, and it can make save files kind of buggy when you load them back. If you guys have seen my custom missions where I've done a reverse base defense or a chrysalid exalt base assault, and the game has crashed because there are so many units on the map, and then I had to use one of the auto saves to load the game back, all the corpses that were on the ground took their rigid default T-poses, which is kind of what Joey looked like when he first spawned in. So yeah, that is a few things you need to be aware of. Guys, I hope this helps tide you over until XCOM 2 is released. Have fun, let me know what you come up with, and thanks for watching, and hope to see you next video. Bye-bye! This video face hug should get the watch on you guys. There was no way to face hug off without always make and it's a miss. Long story short, yeah, I was not aware of that mod. Maybe you guys. Okay, yes, we have Overwatch. There are no. I know. So you have more. Oh wow! I'm so glad this guy has got low profile. So yeah, once I'm back to charge, it's my game, but I saved it, so the alien will be hunting me for about a minute. This is the mission in the game where the game's like, how long hell did that thing survive in a room with the alien? Oh, they die. Yeah, don't look. That's an ugly sight. Don't look at her. She's gonna be okay. As soon as we get back to base, down. I don't know, turn into a zombie.